Do you remember the last time fear held you back? Think about it. Maybe it was a moment where you knew what you wanted to do, what you needed to do, but something inside of you froze. Fear whispered in your ear, convincing you to stop, to stay small, to avoid the unknown. Now, imagine for a moment that you could face that fear with absolute courage, not as an absence of fear, but as the ability to act despite it. What if I told you that courage isn't just a trait of the brave, but a strategy, a tool you can learn to wield? And not only that, but it's a strategy rooted in some of the deepest insights of human psychology and philosophy, thanks to Nietzsche and Carl Jung. Before we dive in, let me set the stage. This is not just another video about facing your fears or feeling the fear and doing it anyway. This is about completely rethinking the relationship between courage and fear. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a reason to live can bear almost anyhow." Think about that. Courage doesn't emerge out of nowhere. It's born from having a purpose so powerful that it outweighs the fear. And Jung? His insights take us even deeper into this. Jung believed that fear is often a projection of the parts of ourselves we haven't yet integrated, the parts we've avoided facing. In this video, we're going to explore how Nietzsche's philosophy and Jung's psychology come together to create a roadmap for becoming the bravest version of yourself. Here's why this matters. Fear is universal. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, or what you've accomplished. Fear is part of being human. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't the absence of fear, it's their ability to face it. And that's what today's journey is all about. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand the mechanics of courage, but also have practical tools to make it your ally. So stick with me, because what we're about to explore could change the way you see yourself and the world forever. Let's start with the question, what is fear really? Fear is, at its core, a survival mechanism. It's your mind and body's way of keeping you safe from harm. But here's the catch: fear doesn't always distinguish between real danger and imagined threats. Nietzsche understood this deeply. He wrote, "Fear is the mother of morality." What he meant is that much of what we call morality, our rules, our boundaries, our limitations are born out of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of death. But Nietzsche also believed that true greatness comes from transcending these fears, from stepping beyond the boundaries that fear imposes. Now, this isn't about recklessness. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it. Jung put it best when he said, "The thing that you most need will be found where you least want to look." Think about that for a second. The thing you fear the most, the confrontation, the challenge, the risk, is often exactly where your growth lies. Why? Because fear points directly to the parts of yourself that you haven't yet integrated, the parts that hold untapped power. Jung called this the shadow, the hidden aspects of our psyche that we repress because they're uncomfortable or scary. But here's the kicker: the shadow isn't just the bad stuff. It's also your unrealized potential. When you avoid your fears, you're not just avoiding pain, you're avoiding your own greatness. So how do we begin to face these fears? The first step is to understand that fear isn't your enemy, it's your guide. Nietzsche believed in the concept of amor fati, or the love of fate. He wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." What he's saying here is that true courage comes from embracing everything, your fears, your failures, your struggles, as necessary parts of your journey. When you stop resisting fear and start seeing it as a teacher, everything changes. Jung adds another layer to this. He believed that fear often arises from a lack of connection to our deeper selves. He said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." Let that sink in. How often do we distract ourselves, numb ourselves, or keep ourselves busy just to avoid facing what's really going on inside? But here's the paradox: the more you avoid your fears, the more they control you. The way out is through. Courage isn't about fighting fear, it's about integrating it. It's about looking fear in the eye and saying, "I see you and I'm not running anymore." Let me give you an example. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cliff, about to jump into the water below. Your mind races with fear. What if it's too high? What if you hit the rocks? What if you fail? But then something shifts. You remember why you're doing this. Maybe it's to prove to yourself that you can, or maybe it's just for the thrill of it. That why becomes stronger than the fear, and you jump. That's courage in action. It's not the absence of fear, it's the decision to act in spite of it. Nietzsche called this the will to power, the drive to overcome obstacles and assert your own strength. He wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." This isn't just about physical challenges, it's about every aspect of life. Every time you face a fear and push through it, you become stronger. You expand your comfort zone. You grow. But courage isn't just about individual moments of bravery. It's a way of life. It's about consistently choosing growth over comfort, purpose over safety, and authenticity over conformity. Jung emphasized this when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And who you truly are is someone who is capable of far more than you realize. But to become that person, you have to face your fears. You have to integrate your shadow. You have to embrace your fate. Now, let's bring this all together. Courage defeats fear not by eliminating it, but by transforming it. Fear is energy, it's the raw material of growth. When you learn to face it, to integrate it, to use it, you unlock a power that most people never even glimpse. Nietzsche and Jung show us that this isn't just philosophy, it's a strategy for living a life that's not defined by fear, but by courage, purpose, and authenticity. So here's my challenge to you: what's one fear you've been avoiding? Maybe it's a conversation you need to have, a risk you need to take, or a truth you need to face. Whatever it is, I want you to take one small step toward it. Because every step you take into the unknown brings you closer to the person you're meant to be. And remember, courage isn't a one-time thing, it's a practice. It's a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Now that we've explored the foundational ideas of courage and fear from Nietzsche and Jung, let's take a deeper dive. If the first step is understanding that fear is not your enemy but your guide, then the next step is learning how to consciously confront it. This is where things start to get uncomfortable, because courage, real courage, doesn't come cheap. It demands that you willingly step into discomfort, even suffering, and face the truth about yourself and the world. But here's the reward: on the other side of fear lies not just freedom but transformation. Let's return to Nietzsche for a moment. One of his most profound ideas is the concept of the Übermensch, or the overman. He wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Man is something that shall be overcome. What have you done to overcome him?" What Nietzsche is saying here is that to truly live, you must constantly strive to transcend who you are today, to overcome yourself. And fear. Fear is the gatekeeper of that transformation. Every time you confront a fear, you're breaking through a boundary, stepping closer to becoming the person you're meant to be. But here's the thing: this process isn't linear. It's not a straight line where you face a fear, overcome it, and suddenly everything is perfect. No, it's more like a spiral. You face a fear, you grow, and then life presents you with a new, deeper fear. This is what Jung referred to as individuation, the process of becoming whole. He said, "The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Think about that. Fear doesn't disappear, it evolves, and so must you. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're afraid of public speaking. The thought of standing in front of a crowd makes your heart race, your palms sweat, your mind go blank, so you avoid it. But every time you avoid it, the fear grows stronger. It starts to control you. Now, let's flip the script. What if, instead of avoiding it, you decided to confront it? Maybe you start small, speaking in front of a few friends or colleagues. It's uncomfortable, even terrifying, but you do it anyway. And then you do it again and again. Over time, the fear loses its grip, but something even more profound happens. You don't just conquer the fear, you transform. You gain confidence, resilience, and a deeper understanding of yourself. This is the essence of individuation, not eliminating fear, but growing beyond it. Nietzsche would call this process the eternal return. He wrote, "What if some day or night a demon were to steal after you into your loneliest loneliness and say to you, this life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more? Would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon who spoke thus? Or have you once experienced a tremendous moment when you would have answered him, you are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine? The eternal return challenges us to live as if every moment, every fear, every struggle will repeat forever. It forces us to ask, am I living a life worth repeating? Am I facing my fears in a way that I can be proud of? Jung offers a complementary perspective with his concept of the hero's journey. He believed that every individual is called to a journey of self-discovery, a journey that inevitably involves confronting fear. He said, in each of us there is another whom we do not know. He speaks to us in dreams and tells us how differently he sees us from the way we see ourselves. This other is your shadow, the part of you that holds your fears, but also your potential. The hero's journey is the process of integrating this shadow, of bringing your hidden self into the light. But let's be real, this isn't easy. The hero's journey is called a journey for a reason. It's long, it's hard, and it's often lonely. There will be moments when you want to give up, when the fear feels too big, when the struggle feels pointless. Nietzsche anticipated this when he wrote, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Chaos is uncomfortable, even painful, but it's also necessary. Without chaos, there is no growth. Without discomfort, there is no courage. So how do we confront our shadow? How do we integrate the parts of ourselves that we've been avoiding? The first step is radical honesty. Nietzsche wrote, "We are always in our own company, you can't escape yourself." So stop running. Start asking yourself the hard questions. What am I afraid of? What am I avoiding? What parts of myself have I been hiding? This kind of self-inquiry takes courage because it means stepping into the unknown. But it's also liberating because the more honest you are with yourself, the more free you become. Jung believed that dreams are one of the most powerful tools for understanding the shadow. He said, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul." Pay attention to your dreams. They're not random, they're messages from your unconscious, clues about what's really going on inside you. When you start to decode these messages, you gain insight into your fears, your desires, and your potential. Let me ask you this, what's your why? What's the thing that matters so much to you that you'd face any fear, endure any struggle, to achieve it? If you don't know the answer, that's okay. Sometimes, finding your why is the scariest part of all. But here's the good news, the journey to find it is the same journey that builds courage. Every step you take into the unknown brings you closer to the truth. Now, let's talk about practical strategies for building courage. Because understanding fear and courage is one thing, but putting it into practice is another. Start small. You don't have to conquer your biggest fear all at once. In fact, trying to do so can backfire. Instead, focus on taking one small, manageable step. If you're afraid of rejection, start by striking up a conversation with a stranger. If you're afraid of failure, set a small goal and commit to it, even if it scares you. Each small victory builds momentum. Each step you take into the unknown makes the next step easier. But here's the key: don't wait to feel ready. Courage doesn't come from feeling confident, it comes from acting despite your fear. Nietzsche wrote, "For believe me, the secret for harvesting from existence the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment is to live dangerously." Living dangerously doesn't mean being reckless, it means being willing to take risks, to step outside your comfort zone, to embrace the uncertainty of life. Jung would add that this process isn't just about action, it's also about reflection. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Facing your fears isn't just about doing, it's about understanding. It's about asking yourself, why am I afraid? What is this fear trying to teach me? What part of myself have I been avoiding? The more you reflect, the more you grow. And the more you grow, the more courageous you become. So here's where we are: fear is not your enemy, it's your guide. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it. And the journey to courage is a journey of self-discovery, a journey of becoming who you truly are. Nietzsche and Jung have given us the roadmap. Now it's up to you to take the first step. Now that we've laid the groundwork for understanding fear, courage, and the journey of self-transformation, let's move into the deeper layers. Because here's the truth: courage isn't just about facing external fears like public speaking, rejection, or failure. The greatest fears, the ones that truly hold us back, are internal. They're the fears we don't even realize we have because they're buried so deep within us. These are the fears that Nietzsche and Jung spent their lives trying to understand, and they hold the key to becoming the bravest version of yourself. Let's start with Nietzsche's idea of becoming who you are. He wrote, "At bottom, every man knows well enough that he is a unique being only once on this earth, and by no extraordinary chance will such a marvelously picturesque piece of diversity and unity as he is ever be put together a second time." I think about that. You are unique. There has never been and will never be another person like you. But how many of us truly live as if that's true? How often do we hide our uniqueness, suppress our individuality, because we're afraid of being judged, misunderstood, or rejected? Here's the paradox: the thing you fear the most, being fully seen for who you truly are, is also the thing you long for the most. We all want to be authentic, to live a life that's true to ourselves. But authenticity requires courage, because it means standing up to the fear of rejection, the fear of not being enough, the fear of failure. Nietzsche understood this deeply. He believed that the path to authenticity is the path of the Übermensch, the one who transcends convention, who dares to live dangerously, who creates their own values. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." This is where Carl Jung comes in. Jung believed that the fear of authenticity, the fear of being yourself, is rooted in the collective unconscious, the inherited beliefs and values of society. He said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Why is it so terrifying? Because accepting yourself means confronting your shadow, the parts of yourself that you've rejected or repressed, because they don't fit the mold of who you think you're supposed to be. It means acknowledging your flaws, your weaknesses, your fears, but also your power, your potential, your greatness. Jung's concept of the shadow is crucial here. He believed that the shadow isn't just the dark parts of ourselves, it's also the parts of ourselves that we've hidden because we're afraid of their power. He said, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is." In other words, the more you ignore your shadow, the more it controls you. But when you face it, when you integrate it, it becomes a source of strength. So how do we navigate this chaos? How do we keep going when the fear feels overwhelming? This is where purpose comes in. Remember Nietzsche's words, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." Your why is your anchor. It's the thing that gives you the strength to face your fears, to endure the chaos, to keep moving forward. Without a strong why, fear will always win. But with a purpose, a mission, a reason to fight, you become unstoppable. Jung would agree. He believed that purpose isn't something you invent, it's something you discover. He said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams; who looks inside, awakes." Courage, then, isn't just about facing external challenges, it's about facing yourself. It's about looking inward, confronting the fears that live within you, and finding the purpose that makes it all worthwhile. But self-awareness is only the beginning. Nietzsche and Jung both believed that true courage requires action. It's not enough to understand your fears, you have to face them. And this is where Nietzsche's idea of the will to power becomes so important. He wrote, "The will to power is the will to overcome oneself. Courage isn't about conquering the world, it's about conquering yourself. It's about choosing to act in the face of fear, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you'd rather stay in your comfort zone." Let's break this down into practical steps. First, identify your fears. Write them down. Be specific. What are you afraid of and why? Then, take one small step toward each fear. If you're afraid of failure, try something new and allow yourself to fail. If you're afraid of rejection, put yourself in a situation where rejection is possible. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to build a tolerance for it. The more you expose yourself to fear, the less power it has over you. Second, cultivate your why. Remember Nietzsche's words, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." Your why is your purpose, your reason for facing your fears. Without it, fear will always win. But with it, you can endure anything. Take time to reflect on what matters most to you. What do you want to create? What do you want to contribute? Who do you want to become? Write it down. Make it real. And then use it as your anchor when fear tries to pull you back. Third, embrace failure. Nietzsche believed that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a necessary part of the journey. He wrote, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." Failure is proof that you're trying, that you're pushing your limits, that you're living courageously. Don't fear it, welcome it, learn from it, use it as fuel to keep going. Finally, surround yourself with people who inspire you. Nietzsche warned against the influence of the herd, the collective mindset that keeps people small and afraid. He wrote, "The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. Seek out those who challenge you, who push you to grow, who remind you of your potential. And if you can't find them, be that person for yourself." So here's where we stand. Courage isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. It's a practice, a mindset, a way of life. It's about facing your fears, integrating your shadow, and living in alignment with your true self. Nietzsche and Jung have given us the tools, the philosophy, the psychology, the roadmap. But the journey is yours to take. I'll leave you with this: life is short. Fear will always be there, whispering in your ear, trying to hold you back. But so will courage. And every time you choose courage over fear, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the world. Because courage is contagious. When you live bravely, you inspire others to do the same. So what are you waiting for? The time to act is now. The person you're meant to be is waiting on the other side of fear. And as Nietzsche said, become who you are. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Now, it's your turn. What will you do with this knowledge? What fear will you face today? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, stay brave.